Hey everyone, it's Michael Kikle. I hope you're doing well today. I have a review here for a book that I've not really ever wanted to read, but I picked it up because I went on vacation a few weeks back. I was also sick, and then I've just kind of been burnt out on making videos, period. Even though I haven't made any videos on this channel for a while, I was working on other channels I have, and I've just been not in the mood to make videos. So I finally went ahead and got around to making this one as a review for a series that I never thought I would try to check out again, but since I went on vacation, I picked it up, and it was from a library, and I got the first 3 volumes. This is the only one I've read of those, and I have some other books I haven't talked about yet that I also read on vacation and post-vacation that I'll talk about as well. Anyway, this is a review for Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Volume 1. The concept, obviously, has been come up with by the original creator of Yu-Gi-Oh!, who sadly passed away. I think it was last year or early this year in 2024. I could be wrong about that, but, God rest his soul. The dude was incredible as a writer. I've never read the manga stuff for the original Yu-Gi-Oh! I think he had some involvement here quite a bit, obviously, as the creator of the original series, but I didn't know that the anime for Yu-Gi-Oh! GX was created before the manga series was, which was super weird. I don't think I've ever heard that happen. Maybe Dragon Ball Super. Maybe. Anyway, the actual writer and artist for this book is named Naoyuki Kageyama, I think is how you say the name. Look, I'm sorry. That's all I have to say. Once again, reviewing a manga on one of the reviews on my Michael Keikel channel, I must say I'm sorry. Yu-Gi-Oh! GX was surprisingly good, but I have to give you a little bit of back history about me and my fandom as a Yu-Gi-Oh! Fan, I guess, back when I was a kid. Now, before GX ever existed here in the US, because I'm pretty sure it had already been completed and everything overseas, there was a channel on Saturday mornings that eventually became the CW. Here in America, it was called Kids WB. I think it was just called the WB Network, something like that. Can't remember what it was on regular days, but on Saturday mornings, for most of my childhood, I would get up at like 7 a.m., and I think by 8 a.m. they were already playing cartoons on Kids WB that could be anything from anime, to American cartoons. And I would see things like Yu-Gi-Oh! I watched most of Yu-Gi-Oh! As it premiered in America, one episode at a time on that channel, and became a hardcore fan of it. But I remember most of it being American cartoons like the Jackie Chan Animated Adventures, which is also good if you haven't seen that. I haven't watched in a while, so take that recommendation in a very hesitant manner, if you will, but also things like Shaolin Showdown, and I'm thinking there's some other stuff. Cubics was one that I really loved too. I loved that channel, and I wish it was still around to this day, and sometimes you can even find YouTube channels that will post those Kids WB things. It was a great time to be alive, kids. But eventually, I got old enough, probably about 8 or 9 years old, that I had heard the advice from many people around me saying, if you're getting sequels to something that was once upon a time original, whether it be movies, TV shows, whatever, it's probably going to suck. It's probably not as good. And this is the thing. I loved Yu-Gi-Oh! I had the cards, I had action figures for different monsters from the cards from Yu-Gi-Oh! I was a huge fan back in the day. And then my parents, I think, thought I got a little obsessed, kind of like with Pokemon, and they kind of took that away for a little bit. By the way, I think Pokemon was something I saw on Kids WB as well. Anyway, even when I kind of faded out of being a Yu-Gi-Oh! Fan for a while there, I remember still watching Kids WB. And loving the show. I had VHS tapes, for God's sake, for the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Show. And then I finally watched Yu-Gi-Oh! GX when it premiered, and then some other episodes past that. And for whatever reason, I don't know if it was the tainting of the people around me who said all this stuff as adults about sequel shows and movies not being as good as the original movie or show. I don't know what it was, but I did not like Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. And it being an anime before a manga, according to the author's note in here by Kazuki, I think maybe that could play into that. I don't know, but I liked this book so much that I would be willing to sit down and rewatch it at some point whenever I finish the books, because it was so freaking fun. With that being said, I think one of the other things that settled into my brain is that this is years after the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Show ended, so I guess manga too, by the way. This has, as far as I can tell, at least in this first book, not a single character from the original series. There is no Joey, there is no Yugi. This is after Yugi popularized dueling, even more so, which, by the way, when the fuck did dueling go from shooting guns at each other in a park in front of people into playing cards heavily? Very strange. This, essentially in concept, is that we follow a young man named Jaden Yuki, not Yugi, like Y-U-G-I, it's Y-U-K-I this time. Very, very creative of you all to do that. Jaden Yuki goes to a academy for dueling, and apparently there's a lot of these schools that are built up all over the place. He's part of a team that I've heard this name before, I don't know where I heard it before either, called Slifer Red, I think is what it's called. Anyway, in the school, they're kind of dividing the students up to different groups, like red, yellow, and blue. And Jaden has a little best friend that kind of calls him bro all the time. That's very weird how it's used in sentences. That feels like a guy overseas trying to mimic how Americans talk. Maybe it's a translation thing. I don't think it is, but I don't know. That's what it came across as to me. But this kid is kind of bullied, and Jaden has a spine, so he tries to, like, fill in the gaps for that other kid in their friendship, to take up for him, to defend him on stuff. And surprisingly enough, I'm used to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Show, back in the day, the OG one, taking episode after episode to have a duel, one-on-one, like Jaden versus whoever, or Yugi versus whoever. That's not how this goes. You might have, out of like 4 or 5 chapters collected in this 200-page manga book, you might have like, I want to say like 1 chapter dedicated to a duel, and that's it. And there's like 5 duels in this book. Like, for real. There's a storyline in here, too, about the girl that's kind of the love interest of the book, also being involved in like a school beauty pageant thing. And you would think that would suck. You would think that would not be good. That was actually way more entertaining than I thought it would be. What I do have a complaint with is the duels themselves. To me, and I don't know about the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga. Again, I haven't read those. I've only seen the original anime most of the way through, and the movie. I don't know if in this particular book they're just pulling shit out of the air that we never knew were Yu-Gi-Oh! Rules within the manga universe. I don't know, but some of it feels like things like I never knew about growing up, things that I've never heard of, things that you wouldn't be able to reveal to the audience without ruining plot twists or plot whatever, surprises, that kind of thing. And on one hand, I kind of admire it, as a creator. On the other hand, it's kind of like, ugh, that feels like it came out of nowhere. That feels like it wasn't planned tremendously well. And it feels like Jaden always wins just because Jaden is Jaden and he's got plot armor, So I don't know. I'm kind of all over the place about how I feel with the duel portions of this book. But I will say when it comes to characters and when it comes to the humor, when it comes to the art, all of that is so beautifully done. I mean, really, I like it a lot. And for somebody like myself who hated GX when it came out, my disdain for it had me worried going into this. And I gotta tell you, I dug it a lot, and if you haven't read this before, I think it's really worth your time. Now, I can't speak to the power or the quality of something like 5Ds, which I think is the series that came out after this one. I don't know if it was the same situation, an anime before a manga or anything like that, so that quality might be even worse. But I really liked this. It's less like Egyptian-themed than the first series was, which is kind of interesting, but I liked it. I thought it was cool. I like how Yugi is kind of a legend of this school, but it doesn't really go out of its way to spoil anything, at least right now in this first book, of the ending of the original series, which I don't even think I ever knew about. So I really like it a lot. I think it's pretty cool. This main monster, like something terraformer, whatever his name is, the picture of the monster that Jaden is sitting on his shoulder, which is literally impossible because that would be a hologram, on the cover of the book here on my video. I really like that particular monster, and I think I even had a toy of him once upon a time. Anyway, Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Volume 1 is not a missed opportunity. It's actually pretty freaking good, and it proves the point that some sequels are worth the time and effort put into them, whether it be creating it or reading it. This is pretty cool for what it is as a school about dueling. My whole thing is, can any of these kids leave the school actually being able to count and shit? Or do they just do card games all day long? This is like the Yu-Gi-Oh! Audience's wet dream, if you will. Anyway, Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Volume 1, do I recommend it? Absolutely. Obviously. I really like the characters we're setting up. I like even side characters like Bastion, who's kind of like, to me, the Joey of this series. I'm digging it. I like kind of the setup of some of the villainous teachers and some of the more villainous students who may become teachers. I like all of that stuff. I just wish the duels didn't feel like they were so randomly made to make Jaden win constantly. I don't know, but I like it a lot. Good 200-page book, definitely a big recommendation for me, whether you're a Yu-Gi-Oh! Fan or not. And if you've read the original series or seen the anime or anything like that, if you haven't ever touched it, this is fine to start with. I think you'll have a good time with it. So check it out if you haven't read it before. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. God bless you all. I'll get you some more reviews for Yu-Gi-Oh! GX volumes, because I did borrow Volume 2 and 3 from the library, so I want to read through them, and I practically want to buy them at some point because they're so good so far. But I'm sure with my luck it's probably out of print. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. What's your thoughts on Yu-Gi-Oh!, Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, 5Ds, all of that stuff? Just be light on the spoilers, okay? I don't want to have it ruined for me. I don't know anything about GX, so keep that in mind. Anyway, thank you all for watching, guys. God bless you all. Catch you later, and goodbye.